There is a moment in your life when everything becomes strangely difficult and you begin asking a question you are almost afraid to say out loud. God, why is this happening when I've been trying so hard to do what is right? Listen to me carefully. What if the pressure you are feeling is not proof that God has abandoned you? What if the silence is not rejection? What if the doors that closed, the people who walked away, the accusations you could not defend yourself against, and the season where nothing seemed to move were not the end of your story? What if God is testing what is inside you before He allows you to step into what is ahead of you? You may be standing closer to a breakthrough than you realize, but the test is revealing whether you are ready to carry what you have been asking God to place into your hands. Some of you have been hurt by people you trusted deeply. You gave them access to your heart, your plans, your weaknesses, and your private struggles, and somehow those very things became weapons against you. They misunderstood your intentions, they questioned your character, they believed rumors about you, they left when you needed them most. And now you have become suspicious of everybody because betrayal taught you to protect yourself. But hear this, God may allow a season of separation to expose what you were depending on that was never strong enough to sustain your future. You wanted certain people to stay, but God knew what their presence was doing to your direction. You called it loneliness. God may have been creating space. Do not make the mistake of measuring God's presence by your circumstances. A difficult season does not automatically mean a godless season. Sometimes the most uncomfortable chapter is the chapter where your inner life is being strengthened. When everything is easy, it is possible to confuse comfort with faith. But when the answer has not arrived, when the door has not opened, when nobody is applauding you, when you cannot see evidence that anything is changing, what remains inside you? That is where the test becomes serious. Will you still trust God when you cannot explain Him? Will you still obey what you know is right when obedience costs you something? Will you continue moving with integrity when dishonesty appears to be producing faster results for everyone around you? Perhaps the first sign that God is testing you is that your patience is being stretched beyond what feels reasonable. You prayed for change, but instead of immediate change, you received another delay. You asked for opportunity, but another opportunity disappeared. You asked God to remove the burden, yet the burden remained for another season. You begin wondering whether your prayer was heard. But patience is not passive waiting. Patience is character under pressure. Anyone can remain calm when everything is working. The deeper test is whether your heart can remain steady when heaven seems quiet and your circumstances seem loud. There are things you have been asking God to give you that would become dangerous if they arrived before your character was ready. You may want influence, but can you handle being misunderstood? You may want financial increase, but can you remain disciplined when more money becomes available? You may want recognition, but can you continue doing what is right when nobody notices? You may want a new relationship, but have you learned how to stop accepting treatment that repeatedly breaks your peace? You may want a bigger opportunity, but can you carry responsibility without allowing pride to control you? Sometimes the delay is not because God has forgotten what you asked for. The delay may be connected to what God is developing in you while you wait. Look at what happens when people stop giving you attention. Does your identity collapse? Look at what happens when someone criticizes you. Do you immediately become consumed with proving yourself? Look at what happens when another person succeeds before you. Does jealousy begin speaking inside you? These moments reveal things that applause can hide. A test does not always look like disaster. Sometimes the test looks like somebody else receiving the thing you have been praying for. You watch their announcement. You see their celebration. Everybody congratulates them while you are sitting quietly with a prayer that has not yet been answered. That moment can reveal whether you believe God is capable of writing your story without using somebody else's timeline. You have to stop assuming that another person's blessing means your opportunity has disappeared. God does not run out of provision because someone else received theirs. Their door is not evidence that yours will never open. Their season does not cancel yours. Your responsibility is not to compete with their timing. Your responsibility is to remain faithful in yours. The test may be asking you, can you celebrate what God is doing for someone else without becoming bitter about what He has not yet done for you? Another sign may be that certain distractions are suddenly becoming unbearable. Conversations that once entertained you now leave you empty. Places you once enjoyed now disturb your peace. Habits that once seemed harmless begin to feel incompatible with the person you are becoming. You may think something is wrong with you because your appetite for certain things is changing. But growth often changes what you can tolerate. When God is preparing you for a different level of responsibility, you may begin recognizing that not everything deserves access to your mind, your time, or your emotions. And this is where many people turn back. They become uncomfortable with the new discipline because the old life was easier. They want transformation without inconvenience. They want a new future while protecting every old habit that helped create their present circumstances. But you cannot keep feeding the old version of yourself and expect the future to be built by accident. There comes a point where you must choose between temporary comfort and lasting transformation. The test is not always asking, can you survive pain? Sometimes it is asking, can you release what feels familiar? Maybe God is testing your reaction to injustice. You were falsely accused, and you wanted to defend yourself immediately. You wanted to expose every person who lied about you. You wanted everyone to know the truth. But sometimes the strongest response is not frantic self-defense. There are moments when you must allow your character to speak through consistency. Not every accusation deserves your energy. Not every misunderstanding requires a courtroom in your mind. Not every person needs to be convinced. God knows what happened when nobody else was watching. This does not mean you should tolerate abuse, surrender wisdom, or remain silent when protection and truth require action. It means you must not allow someone else's behavior to dictate the condition of your soul. If they become cruel, you do not have to become cruel. If they become dishonest, you do not have to become dishonest. If they try to drag you into chaos, you do not have to live there. Your greatest victory may be refusing to become the person your pain is trying to create. You may also notice that God is testing your consistency in small things. Nobody sees the private decisions. Nobody knows what you do when there is no reward. Nobody applauds you for keeping your word when breaking it would be easier. Nobody celebrates you for walking away from temptation when nobody would have discovered it. But these hidden decisions are not insignificant. Your private choices are shaping the person who will eventually stand inside your public opportunity. Do not despise the ordinary season. You may be asking God for something extraordinary while overlooking the ordinary responsibilities already in front of you. Take care of what is in your hands. Honor the work that is available today. Manage what you already possess. Speak carefully. Keep your promises. Protect your peace. Learn from your mistakes. Stop waiting for a dramatic sign before taking responsibility for the obvious things God has already placed in front of you. And then there is the test of silence. This one breaks people because human beings want immediate answers. We want explanations. We want timelines. We want to know why one door closed and another has not opened. But sometimes God does not give you the entire map. He gives you enough light for the next step. If you demand complete certainty before you move, fear will keep you standing still. Faith does not mean pretending you know everything. It means continuing to trust God while admitting that you do not. There may be a season where your prayers feel different. You are no longer asking only for God to change your circumstances. You begin asking God to change you. That is a deeper prayer. God, make me wiser, make me disciplined, make me patient, remove arrogance from me, remove fear from me. Teach me to recognize what is healthy and what is destructive. Teach me to walk away without hatred. Teach me to receive without becoming proud. Teach me to wait without becoming bitter. When your prayer changes from give me what I want to prepare me for what is right, something inside you has already begun to shift. Maybe the test is your ability to forgive without reopening the door. You can release resentment without pretending betrayal never happened. You can wish someone well from a distance. You can stop carrying their name through every conversation. You can refuse to let an old wound become your permanent identity. Forgiveness does not mean you must restore every relationship. Wisdom and forgiveness can exist together. You can say, I release this to God, but I will not place myself back into the same destructive situation. Some of you are being tested through disappointment, because disappointment reveals whether your faith was attached to God or merely attached to a particular outcome. You prayed for one specific door. You imagined one specific person. You expected one specific opportunity. When it failed, your entire emotional world collapsed. But perhaps God is teaching you that your future cannot depend on one person, one company, one opportunity, one relationship, or one plan. What you thought was the only door may simply have been the door you could see. Do not worship the outcome. Trust God beyond the outcome. If one door closes, your life is not finished. If one relationship ends, your identity is not destroyed. If one plan fails, your purpose is not erased. If one season humiliates you, your future has not been sentenced to humiliation. God can take what looks like a dead end and use it to redirect you towards something you could not see while you were staring at the road you wanted. And perhaps the most painful test is when you must continue believing in your future while your present gives you very little evidence. That is where courage becomes real. Anybody can be confident after receiving the answer. But what about before the answer? What about the morning when you wake up and nothing has changed? What about the night when your mind starts replaying every failure? What about the moment when someone tells you you will never recover? What about when your own memories begin speaking louder than your hope? That is when you must speak truth to yourself. This season is not my identity. This rejection is not my destiny. This betrayal is not the definition of my life. This delay does not prove that God has forgotten me. I will not allow temporary circumstances to make permanent decisions for my future. You have survived days you once believed would destroy you. Think about that. There were moments when you thought you would never smile again. There were nights when your heart felt exhausted. There were conversations that left you shattered. There were people you trusted who revealed sides of themselves you never expected to see. Yet, you are still here. You are still capable of choosing. You are still capable of rebuilding. You are still capable of believing. The pain did not get the final word, but do not romanticize the test. Pain is not automatically proof that a breakthrough is coming tomorrow. Difficult circumstances can have many causes, and wisdom requires you to examine your choices, your environment, and reality itself. The point is not to label every hardship as a secret divine signal. The point is to ask a better question. God, what can you teach me here? What must I change? What must I release? What must I strengthen? What must I stop tolerating? What must I become more disciplined about? That question turns suffering into an opportunity for discernment instead of superstition. You do not need to chase signs every hour. You need to become sensitive to what God is teaching you through the season you are actually living. If the season is teaching patience, learn patience. If it is teaching boundaries, build boundaries. If it is teaching humility, receive correction. If it is exposing unhealthy dependence, develop strength. If it is revealing your fear, confront it. If it is teaching you to stop seeking approval from people who cannot understand your calling, stop handing them authority over your identity. There is a difference between being delayed and being denied. There is also a difference between waiting on God and refusing to act because you are afraid. Do not use spirituality to disguise avoidance. If there is a door you should responsibly pursue it. If there is a skill you need to learn, learn it. If there is an apology you owe, make it. If there is a destructive habit you must leave, leave it. Trusting God does not mean becoming passive. Sometimes faith looks like taking the next responsible step while admitting that you cannot control the final result. And when the breakthrough finally comes, you may realize why the test had to go deeper than you wanted. You will understand why certain people could not come with you. You will understand why some opportunities disappeared. You will understand why some prayers took longer than expected. You will recognize that the season was not merely changing your circumstances. It was changing your capacity. So if you are in a season where everything feels uncertain, do not panic. Slow down enough to listen. Examine yourself without condemning yourself. Learn without becoming ashamed. Correct what needs correction. Protect what needs protection. Release what needs releasing. And keep your relationship with God at the center of your decisions. You have been through enough to know that people can change their minds. People can promise and disappear. People can praise you today and criticize you tomorrow. Circumstances can shift overnight. But your stability cannot depend entirely on things that change. Build your inner life on trust in God, discipline, wisdom, and truth. Then, when the winds change, you may bend, but you will not have to become someone else just to survive. Maybe the reason this season feels so uncomfortable is because you are outgrowing the person who needed everyone's approval. Maybe you are learning to walk without constant reassurance. Maybe you are discovering that peace is more valuable than popularity. Maybe you are realizing that being misunderstood is sometimes the price of refusing to betray your own values. Maybe the loneliness is forcing you to hear thoughts you kept drowning out with noise. Do not run from that silence too quickly. There may be something important waiting to be understood there. And when you finally step into the next chapter, do not forget the person you were when nobody believed in you. Do not become arrogant because the people who rejected you suddenly recognize you. Do not become cruel because people once treated you cruelly. Do not use your new position to punish the people who underestimated you. Let God decide what justice looks like. Your responsibility is to become stronger without becoming harder, wiser without becoming cynical, successful without becoming proud, and blessed without forgetting the lessons that brought you through the wilderness. You may not know exactly when the breakthrough will come. Nobody should promise you a date, a number, or a guaranteed outcome. But you can know what to do while you wait. You can become ready. You can become disciplined. You can become emotionally mature. You can become harder to manipulate. You can become more discerning. You can become less dependent on applause. You can become more courageous in truth. You can become more faithful in small things. So lift your head. Not because every problem has disappeared, but because your problems do not deserve to become the ruler of your mind. You have more to learn, more to build, more to become, and more life ahead of you. The season that wounded you does not have permission to define every season that follows. If God is using this season to test you, then do not waste the test. Let the pressure reveal your character. Let the disappointment expose your attachments. Let the silence teach you patience. Let the betrayal teach you discernment without teaching you hatred. Let the delay teach you preparation. Let the closed doors teach you that your vision is smaller than God's possibilities. And when you reach the place you have been praying for, you will not merely celebrate that the storm ended. You will understand that something inside you became stronger while the storm was raging. You thought you were waiting for God to change your circumstances. Perhaps through the waiting, God was preparing you to change the way you carry yourself through circumstances. You thought the test was keeping you from your breakthrough. Perhaps the test was preparing you not to destroy the breakthrough when it arrived. So keep walking, keep learning, keep correcting what needs correction. Keep your heart clean without becoming naive. Keep your boundaries strong without becoming bitter. Keep your hope alive without demanding a timetable from God. And when the next door opens, enter it with humility. Enter it with wisdom. Enter it with gratitude. Enter it knowing that you did not become strong because life was easy. You became stronger because in the hardest moments, you refused to let pain separate you from your trust in God. The people who abandoned you do not get to write your ending. The people who misunderstood you do not get to define your worth. The accusation does not get the final word. The delay does not get the final word. The lonely season does not get the final word. Your fear does not get the final word. God has the final word. And until you see what is next, keep becoming the person who can carry it. Because sometimes the greatest evidence that you are ready for a new chapter is not that everything around you has changed. It is that you have changed so deeply that the same pressure that once broke you can no longer control you. The same rejection that once destroyed your confidence can no longer determine your worth. The same silence that once terrified you can now become a place where you hear God more clearly. Do not run from the test. Learn from it. Do not worship the pain. Grow through it. Do not worship the breakthrough. Stay grounded in God. And when your moment comes, you will not need to convince everyone who doubted you. You will not need revenge. You will not need applause. You will simply stand there, stronger, wiser, calmer, and deeply aware that the season you thought was burying you was also preparing you. Keep going. God has not lost sight of you. There is something you need to understand about the season you are walking through. Not every battle is meant to be defeated by force. Some battles are meant to expose what has been controlling you. You have been asking God to change the situation, but perhaps God is first revealing what the situation has been doing inside you. Why does this person have so much power over your emotions? Why does one rejection make you question your entire worth? Why does one delay make you believe your future is finished? Why does another person's success make you feel like you have failed? These questions are uncomfortable because they lead beneath the surface. They reveal that sometimes the greatest battle is not around you. It is within you. You may be experiencing a strange season where the things you once chased no longer satisfy you. You used to need constant attention. You needed people to notice your work, praise your appearance, approve your decisions, and reassure you that you were doing enough. Now something inside you is becoming quieter. You are beginning to understand that peace is more valuable than applause. That change can feel like loss because you are leaving behind an identity built around other people's opinions. But God may be teaching you to stop asking people to give you what only a strong inner foundation can provide. Somebody may have walked away from you and left you wondering what you did wrong. You replayed conversations. You searched for mistakes. You wondered whether you were too kind, too honest, too available, too emotional, or simply not enough. But sometimes a person leaving is not a verdict against your value. Sometimes their departure exposes a relationship that could not survive the direction your life was taking. You do not have to turn every goodbye into a confession of your unworthiness. Some endings hurt precisely because you were attached to something that could no longer travel with you. There is another test that many people never recognize, the test of what you do when nobody is watching. It is easy to appear disciplined when people are observing you. It is easy to speak about faith when circumstances are favorable. It is easy to say you trust God when the answer has already arrived. But what happens in the hidden hours? What do you do when nobody would know if you compromised? What do you say when you are angry and have an opportunity to destroy someone's reputation? What do you choose when taking the dishonest shortcut would be easier? Those private decisions are shaping your future more deeply than the public moments people can see. You cannot build a stable future with an unstable character. That is why preparation can feel frustratingly slow. You want the result, but God may be dealing with the roots. You want more money, but perhaps discipline must become stronger first. You want influence, but perhaps humility needs to become deeper. You want a healthy relationship, but perhaps your boundaries need to become clearer. You want leadership, but perhaps you need to learn how to receive correction without becoming defensive. You want freedom, but perhaps you must first stop returning to the patterns that keep you trapped. Sometimes the test comes through temptation at exactly the moment you are exhausted. You have been waiting so long that suddenly a shortcut appears. It promises quick money, instant attention, immediate pleasure, or a relationship that feels exciting but carries consequences you do not want to face later. That moment can reveal whether you want the right future or merely the fastest escape from your current discomfort. Never underestimate the danger of making a permanent decision simply because you are tired of a temporary season. You may be closer to something important, but closeness does not mean you should become reckless. A person who is desperate for change can become vulnerable to manipulation. Someone promises you everything you have been praying for, and suddenly you ignore every warning sign because you want the promise to be true. Be careful. Not every opportunity is an answer. Not every person who speaks confidently has good intentions. Not every open door deserves to be entered. Sometimes discernment is part of the test. God can give you an opportunity, but you still need wisdom to recognize whether the opportunity is healthy. Do not confuse urgency with divine direction. If someone pressures you to make an immediate decision because you will lose everything if you wait, slow down. If an arrangement requires you to violate your values before you can benefit, walk away. If success demands that you destroy your peace, examine the price. A breakthrough that requires you to become someone you cannot respect is not the kind of breakthrough you should chase blindly. Perhaps God is also testing your ability to wait without becoming passive. There is a difference between patience and procrastination. Patience says, I will trust God while doing what I can responsibly do. Procrastination says, I will do nothing until I receive certainty. Do not hide fear behind spiritual language. If you need to apply, apply. If you need to learn, learn. If you need to make the call, make the call. If you need to apologize, apologize. If you need to leave a destructive environment safely and wisely, begin making the necessary plans. Trusting God should produce courage, not paralysis. Some of you are being tested by a lack of recognition. You have been working while someone else receives the praise. You have been faithful while someone else gets promoted. You have been building quietly while someone else seems to be moving ahead effortlessly. That can create a dangerous question in your mind. Why should I continue? But your worth cannot depend on being noticed immediately. If you only work when people applaud you, you have given other people control over your motivation. There are seasons when God allows you to become strong in obscurity before placing you in visibility. Not because visibility is guaranteed, but because hidden seasons can reveal whether you can carry responsibility without needing constant validation. You must learn to respect the work even when the audience is small. You must learn to improve even when nobody is congratulating you. You must learn to remain honest even when dishonesty appears to be rewarded. Then there is the test of disappointment with God Himself. This is one of the most honest struggles a person can face. You prayed sincerely, yet the answer did not come the way you expected. You asked God to protect something and you lost it. You asked for a relationship to survive and it ended. You asked for financial relief and the pressure continued. You asked for healing in a situation and the circumstances remain painful. You may feel guilty for admitting that you are disappointed, but God does not need fake emotions from you. Speak honestly. Bring the confusion to Him. Bring the anger. Bring the questions. You do not have to pretend that you understand everything. Faith is not the absence of difficult questions. Sometimes faith is continuing to seek God while you still have questions. And when you cannot understand why something happened, be careful about inventing an explanation. You do not need to call every tragedy a test or every loss a hidden blessing. Sometimes life is simply painful. Sometimes people make destructive choices. Sometimes circumstances are unfair. Wisdom means refusing to create false certainty just because uncertainty makes you uncomfortable. You can say, I do not know why this happened, but I know I can choose what I do next. That choice matters. You can choose bitterness, or you can choose growth. You can choose revenge, or you can choose boundaries. You can choose self-destruction, or you can choose rebuilding. You can choose to live permanently inside the story of what happened to you. Or you can begin writing what happens next. Your past deserves acknowledgement, but it does not deserve ownership of your future. Think about the person you were before the betrayal. You trusted easily. You gave people chances. You believed promises quickly. After being hurt, you learned caution. But be careful that wisdom does not become permanent suspicion. If you allow one dishonest person to teach you that everyone is dishonest, you have allowed their behavior to poison every future relationship. Discernment says, I will observe character. Fear says, I will assume everyone will hurt me. Those are not the same thing. You do not have to become cold to become wise. You can have boundaries without hatred. You can say no without guilt. You can walk away without revenge. You can protect your time without becoming selfish. You can refuse manipulation without becoming cruel. That is maturity. You are not required to keep giving access to people who repeatedly demonstrate that they cannot handle it responsibly. Another sign of preparation is that God may be teaching you to make decisions based on values rather than emotions. Emotions are real, but they are not always reliable guides. You can feel lonely and still make the right decision. You can feel afraid and still move forward. You can feel angry and still refuse to retaliate. You can feel disappointed and still remain disciplined. Strength is not the absence of emotion. Strength is refusing to let every emotion become a command. There will be mornings when you feel motivated and nights when you feel exhausted. Do not build your entire life around how you feel today. Build routines that carry you when motivation disappears. Build habits that protect your future when your emotions are unstable. Build principles that remain firm when circumstances change. This is why the testing season can feel so repetitive. You may think, why am I facing the same kind of situation again? Perhaps because the lesson has not yet become a habit. If the same pattern keeps returning, do not only ask why people keep treating you this way. Ask what you keep permitting. Ask what warning signs you ignore. Ask why you keep choosing familiar chaos over unfamiliar peace. Ask what part of the cycle belongs to you. That question is painful, but it can also be liberating, because if you are responsible for your choices, then you have power to change them. You may not control who lies about you. You may not control who leaves. You may not control who misunderstands you. You may not control whether someone recognizes your effort, but you can control whether you become dishonest because someone lied. You can control whether you become cruel because someone was cruel. You can control whether rejection convinces you to stop trying. You can control whether disappointment turns you into someone you never wanted to become. That is where your strength begins. And perhaps the most unexpected test is what happens when your circumstances finally improve. It is easy to imagine that breakthrough will solve everything. You think, if I had more money, I would finally be peaceful. If I found the right person, I would finally feel secure. If I received the opportunity, I would finally stop worrying. But external improvement cannot automatically heal internal instability. If you carry fear into abundance, you may still be afraid. If you carry insecurity, into a relationship, you may still seek constant reassurance. If you carry poor discipline into financial increase, more resources may simply create larger problems.